I want to tell you what it feels like to be carried. Not carried the way you carry a child or the way an ambulance carries a patient. Carried the way something carries you when it has been waiting to do exactly this. When the carrying itself is an act of love so specific and so deliberate that every point of contact communicates something that no human touch has ever communicated to you before. Something that says without words and without any possibility of misunderstanding, you are known. You are safe. You were expected. I was an orthopedic surgeon. I had spent my career understanding the human body as a precise and magnificent mechanism. Bones and joints and the intricate engineering of movement. I had operated on thousands of patients. I had held human tissue in my hands and understood, with the confidence of someone who had studied it for decades, exactly what it was and exactly what it was not. I was not a woman given to fantasy or to the kind of thinking that reaches past what can be verified and measured and explained. I was being carried by angels. Not metaphorically. Not in the way that we sometimes use that word to describe an experience of unexpected help or an inexplicable sense of being held in a difficult moment. I mean beings. Real, specific, present, enormous beings whose existence I had spent my entire adult life not believing in. Beings who had reached into the water of a river in southern Chile and pulled me out of a situation that my medical training told me, with complete and clinical certainty, I should not have survived. I had not survived it. Not in the way the word survival usually means. My body was still in the river. My heart had stopped. My lungs had filled with water. By every physiological measure available to the human beings who would later work to revive me, I was dead. But I was more alive than I had ever been. And the beings carrying me were moving with a joy so complete and so specific that I understood, without being told, that this was not an emergency for them. That what looked like a catastrophe from the riverbank was, from where they were, something else entirely. Something they had known was coming. Something they had been present for and prepared for long before I arrived at that river on that January morning in 1999. They had been waiting for me. And what they were carrying me toward was something so beautiful and so real and so full of everything I had spent my life not knowing I was missing, that the word heaven, that word I had heard thousands of times in churches and in eulogies and in the quiet prayers of patients facing the end of their lives, that word was finally, completely, inadequate. But it is the closest word we have. So let me take you back to the beginning. Let me take you back to January of 1999, to a woman who was 49 years old and who believed, with the complete and well-reasoned confidence of someone who had built her life on evidence, that the physical world was the whole of reality. That what you could see and measure and operate on was what there was. That the stories people told about God and angels and heaven were the beautiful and necessary inventions of minds that needed comfort in the face of a universe that offered none. I was that woman. My name is Mary Neal. I was born and raised in a family that attended church the way many American families attend church, with genuine warmth and genuine habit and a genuine openness to the possibility of something greater, but without the specific and personal certainty that transforms attendance into encounter. I absorbed faith as a cultural inheritance rather than a living experience. I respected it. I appreciated what it gave people. I could not, with the part of my mind that had been trained to demand evidence, fully share it. I was a spine surgeon practicing in Jackson, Wyoming. My husband Bill was an orthopedic surgeon as well. We had 4 children. We lived a life that was full in every measurable sense, professionally demanding, physically active, rich with the specific texture of a family that loved each other and loved the mountains and loved the particular quality of life available to people who have worked hard and built something real. It was a good life. It was also, in ways I could not have articulated at the time, a life that was slightly too small for something in me that I had never fully identified. A persistent undertone. Not unhappiness exactly. More like the sense that there was a frequency I could not quite hear. A dimension of experience that the framework I had built to navigate the world was not designed to access. I did not know what it was. January of 1999 found me in southern Chile on a kayaking trip with a group of friends. I had been kayaking for years. I was experienced and capable and comfortable on the water in a way that comes from genuine skill rather than false confidence. The Fuey River in the Los Lagos region of Chile is beautiful in the specific and dramatic way of rivers that have been carved by ancient forces through volcanic landscape, powerful and cold and staggeringly scenic and demanding of respect in the way that all genuinely wild places demand respect. I had respected it. On the morning of January 22nd, I put my kayak into the water with the specific and practiced ease of someone who has done this many times. The sky above the Fuey Valley was the particular blue that belongs to January in the southern hemisphere, deep and clear and full of the particular quality of light that hits volcanic landscape from a southern sun. I remember thinking, in the quiet way that you think things when your body is doing something familiar and your mind is momentarily free, that it was a beautiful morning to be alive. It was the last thought I had before everything changed. Peace. Not the peace of resignation. Not the peace of someone who has stopped caring what happens. The peace of someone who has been handed something by a universe that turned out to be far more benevolent than she had believed. The peace of someone whose body was dying and who was, in the moment of that dying, being shown that dying was not what she had thought it was. And then the water around me changed. Not physically. The current was still there. The riverbed was still there. My body was still pinned and my lungs were full of the cold water of the Fuey River, and by every clinical measure I was a woman in the final moments of drowning. But something entered the water with me. Something that had not been there a moment before. A warmth that the river could not account for. A presence that the river could not contain. Something that knew exactly where I was and had arrived with the specific intentionality of something that had always known this moment was coming and had been moving toward it since long before I put my kayak in the water that morning. And then I felt them. Hands. Not human hands. Hands that were more real than human hands, more specific, more present, more full of intention and warmth than anything my physical body had ever been touched by. Hands that reached through the water and through the current and through every physical impossibility that stood between where I was and where they were, and held me with a certainty that communicated one thing above everything else. You are not alone. You were never alone. Not for a single moment of your life in that river or outside of it. And what came next, what those hands did, and where they carried me, and what was waiting when I arrived, was something that a woman who had spent her career operating on the human body and her life not quite believing in anything beyond it was completely unprepared for. And completely unable to deny. They lifted me out of the water. I want to stay with that sentence for a moment because I think it is the most important sentence I will say in this entire account, and I want you to receive it fully before I continue. Not lifted me to the surface. Not pulled me free of the kayak. Lifted me out of the water in the way that implies a destination. In the way that implies that the lifting was the beginning of something rather than the end of something. In the way that implies that where they were taking me was somewhere specific and somewhere known and somewhere that had been prepared. They lifted me out of the water. And I left my body behind. Not dramatically. Not with the tearing sensation you might imagine when something that has been part of you for 49 years is suddenly no longer where you are. More like, and I have sat with this analogy for years, and it is still the closest I can come, more like stepping out of a coat. A coat that had served its purpose. A coat that had been warm and useful and that I had worn for every moment of my conscious life. And that I now simply was not wearing anymore. My body was still in the river. I knew that. I was aware of it the way you are aware of something that is no longer your immediate concern, with a kind of calm acknowledgement rather than with the panic you would expect. I could perceive it from wherever I was in the way that you might perceive something at a distance, present, real, but not urgent. Not me anymore, or at least not the whole of me. What was me, what was fully and completely and more accurately me than the body in the river had ever been, was being carried. And the beings carrying me were unlike anything my medical training or my cultural inheritance or my 49 years of careful and evidence-based engagement with reality had equipped me to process. They were enormous. Not enormous in a frightening way. I need to say that clearly because I think the word enormous in connection with beings we have no framework for automatically generates a kind of alarm that was completely absent from my experience. Enormous in the way that something can be overwhelming and completely safe simultaneously. Enormous in the way that the sky is enormous. Not threatening, not pressing in on you, just vast in a way that makes your own scale feel different without making you feel small in any diminishing sense. They were full of joy. This is the thing I return to most often when I try to describe them. Not the size. Not the light, though there was light. A warm and specific light that seemed to emanate from within them rather than from any external source. The way living things generate warmth from within rather than reflecting it from without. not the beauty, though they were beautiful in a way that exceeded every aesthetic category I had ever used. The joy. It was the most specific thing about them. Not a generic happiness. Not an undifferentiated positive state. A joy that was particular and purposeful and directed at me, at this specific moment, at the carrying of this specific woman out of this specific river on this specific January morning. As if what they were doing was not a rescue but a celebration. As if they had been looking forward to this. As if my arrival at this moment, my body dying in the cold water of the Fui River, my consciousness lifting free of it, was not a tragedy they were responding to but an appointment they had been keeping. I thought later, much later, when I had language again and the capacity to reach for scripture, of Psalm 91 verse 11. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. I had read that verse before. I had heard it quoted at bedsides and in memorial services and in the quiet moments when people reach for whatever they have to hold on to. I had received it as beautiful ancient language offering comfort to people who needed comfort. In that moment, being carried by those beings, I understood it was not comfort. It was a job description. They had been commanded, specifically, concerning me. And they were fulfilling that command with the specific and joyful completeness of beings who understood the weight of what they had been entrusted with and who found in the fulfillment of it not burden but purpose. We moved. I cannot tell you in what direction because direction, as a concept, was not functioning the way it functions inside a physical body navigating a physical world. What I can tell you is that there was movement, purposeful, steady, increasingly luminous movement, away from the river and away from my body and towards something that I could feel before I could see it. Feel the way you feel the warmth of a fire before you turn the corner and see it. A growing warmth. A growing quality of light. A growing sense of something ahead that was so real and so full that the word destination does not begin to contain it. And then I arrived. I have spent years trying to find adequate language for what I arrived in, and I have never fully succeeded, and I suspect I never will. What I can do is give you pieces of it and trust that the pieces, even if they cannot reconstruct the whole, will point toward it in the way that the finger pointing at the moon points at the moon. The place was alive. Not alive the way a forest is alive or the way a city is alive. Alive the way the source of all life is alive. Everything in it, the light, the colors that exceeded every visible spectrum I had ever worked within as a surgeon or encountered as a human being, the quality of the air or whatever served the function of air in that place, everything was conscious, was aware, was participating in something so fundamental and so complete that the word existence barely scratches the surface of it. And there were people, specific people, people I recognized, people who came toward me with the particular quality of welcome that belongs to someone who has been expecting you and is genuinely, specifically, Overwhelmingly glad you have arrived. Not the polite gladness of a social occasion. The structural gladness of people for whom your arrival is not a pleasant addition to their experience but a completion of something. A restoration of something that had been temporarily interrupted. The love in that place was not a feeling. It was a substance. It was what the air was made of, what the light was made of, what the beings around me were made of. And it was directed at me, at 49-year-old Mary Neal, orthopedic surgeon, wife, mother, skeptic, woman who had spent her life being careful about what she allowed herself to believe, with a specificity and a completeness that made every experience of love I had ever had in my physical life feel like a rough sketch of the thing rather than the thing itself. I thought of 1 John chapter 4 verse 16. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them. I had read that verse. I had appreciated it as one of the most elegant theological statements ever written. Standing in that place, existing in that place, because standing is too physical a word for what I was doing, I understood that John was not writing theology. He was writing field notes. He had been somewhere. He had experienced something. And he had come back and done what everyone who comes back from that place does, reached for the most precise language available and found it insufficient and used it anyway because it was all there was. God is love. Not God is loving. Not God expresses love or God offers love or God is characterized by love. God is love. The substance of Him. The material of Him. The thing the universe is made of because the universe is an expression of Him and He is love and therefore everything He makes carries that quality at its most fundamental level. I was standing inside the material of God, and it knew my name. And then something happened that shifted everything. One of the beings, one of the specific and joyful beings who had been present since the moment I was lifted from the river, came toward me with a quality of intentionality that was different from the general welcome of that place. More specific, more directed. The way a person moves toward you when they have something particular to say that is meant for you and no one else. And what came next was not what I expected. It was not a description of the beauty around me. It was not an explanation of the nature of the place I was in. It was not a theological revelation or a divine vision or any of the categories of experience I would later use to try to make sense of what was happening. It was information, specific, personal, about my son, about something that was going to happen to my son. Something that had not happened yet. Something that I would only understand fully, completely, with the particular devastation and the particular grace of understanding something too large to hold, years after I returned to my body in that river in Chile. I did not want to hear it. And I could not stop hearing it. I need to tell you what it is like to be told something by God. Not told in the way that we sometimes use that phrase, the way that means a strong impression, a sense of conviction, an inner voice that might be intuition or might be something more. Told in the way that means direct, unambiguous, specific in a way that leaves no room for interpretation and no possibility of having misheard. Told the way you were told something by someone standing directly in front of you who has your complete attention and who is communicating something they need you to carry, and they need you to carry it accurately. That is how I was told about my son. His name was Willie. He was 9 years old when I was in that river in Chile. 9 years old and at home in Jackson, Wyoming with his father and his siblings, waiting for his mother to come back from a kayaking trip. A boy who loved the outdoors the way children who grow up in Wyoming love the outdoors, with a physical and instinctive joy that belongs to people who have grown up with mountains as their backyard. A boy with a laugh I could hear from across a house. A boy whose particular quality of aliveness, the specific and irreplaceable way that he occupied whatever room he was in, was one of the most beautiful things I had ever witnessed. And I was being told that he was going to die. Not immediately. Not soon in the way that produces a specific and actionable dread. The message carried within it a sense of time, of years still ahead, of life still to be lived, of a boy who would become a young man who would accomplish things and love people and be loved in return before the moment the message was pointing toward arrived. But the message was clear. The message was certain. The message had the quality of something being communicated not as a possibility or a warning but as a fact about the future delivered by someone who existed outside of time and therefore spoke about what had not yet happened with the same authority that we speak about what has already occurred. Willie would die young. I want to stay with what that felt like to receive, because I think it is important. Because I think the way I received it, the way that place equipped me to receive something that should have been unbearable, is one of the most important things I can tell you about the nature of God and the nature of that place and the nature of what we are given when we are given access to the reality that underlies this one. I did not collapse. I did not protest. Did not bargain. Did not experience the specific and shattering grief that I would have expected myself to feel if someone had told me this in any other context in any other way. Not because I did not love Willie. I loved him with the complete and consuming love of a mother for a child, the love that is not chosen but simply is, the love that reorganizes your entire interior landscape around the fact of another person's existence. I did not collapse because the message did not arrive alone. It arrived wrapped in something, held inside something, delivered within a context of love so complete and so specific and so absolutely certain of the goodness of what it was telling me that the information itself, as devastating as it was, did not land as devastation. It landed as something I can only describe as sacred weight. The weight of something true and important and held carefully and given to me because I was the right person to carry it and because carrying it was part of what I had been made for. I understood, in a way that I cannot fully explain, but that was completely clear to me in that moment, that Willie's death was not an accident waiting to happen, was not a tragedy occurring outside the knowledge or the care of God, was not evidence of a universe indifferent to the lives of the people in it. It was known. It had always been known. And it was held, Willie's whole life, including its ending, held in the same love that was holding me in that moment. The same love that had sent those beings to pull me out of the river. The same love that knew my name before I was born. The same love that, I was beginning to understand, knew every name, held every life, missed nothing and abandoned nothing and allowed nothing to fall outside its awareness or its care. I thought of Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb I knew you. Before you were born I set you apart. I had read that verse. I had appreciated its beauty. In that moment I understood it was not poetry about Jeremiah. It was a statement about every person who had ever drawn breath. About Willie. About me. About you. About every child who has ever been born and every parent who has ever loved them and every life that has ever seemed to end too soon. Before I formed you in the womb I knew you. Willie was known. Completely. From before his birth. And everything about his life, including the part that would break my heart, including the part that I was now being shown so that I could carry it and survive it and eventually understand it, was held within that knowing with a tenderness so complete that the word tenderness seems almost insufficient. The message came with something else. A purpose. Not just the information about Willie, but an understanding of why I was being given it. Why it was being placed in my hands rather than kept from me. The beings around me communicated, in the direct and complete way that communication worked in that place, that the knowing was a gift. That being shown this now, in this place, surrounded by this love, was the only way I would be able to carry it when it came. That the experience of receiving devastating information inside complete love was itself a preparation. A strengthening of something that was going to need to be strong. I was being given lead time. Not to prevent what was coming, that was not offered, and I did not ask for it because in that place I understood, with a clarity I have never fully been able to reconstruct inside ordinary life, that the events of our lives are not the accidents we sometimes experience them as. That the things that break us were known and held before they arrived. That what looks like catastrophe from inside the grief of it looks different from outside it, looks like the specific and necessary pressure that produces the specific and necessary transformation that could not have been produced any other way. I thought of Romans chapter 5 verses 3 through 4. We also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope. I had read those words. I had found them, in my scientific and evidence-based engagement with the world, slightly too convenient. Slightly too much like the kind of thing people say to make unbearable things bearable. The religious equivalent of every cloud has a silver lining, true as a sentiment, inadequate as an account of why terrible things happen to people who do not deserve them. In that place I understood Paul was not offering sentiment. He was describing a mechanism. Suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance produces character. Character produces hope. Not hope as wishful thinking. Hope is the specific and structural consequence of having been through something that should have broken you and discovering that it did not. Hope is the evidence-based conclusion of a person who has tested the ground beneath them in the worst possible conditions and found it solid. I was being shown the mechanism from the inside. And the mechanism was not cruel. It was the most loving thing I have ever encountered. The time I spent in that place, and I have no way of measuring it, time having ceased to function as a reliable framework, was not uniform. It had texture, had depth, had what I can only describe as layers, each one revealing something that the previous layer had been preparing me to receive. I moved through it not randomly but in the way that you move through something that has been designed, that has been thought about and prepared and arranged with the specific person who would move through it in mind. It was designed for me. Everything about it. The beings who had come to the river. The specific quality of welcome in that place. The way the message about Willie had been delivered, inside love rather than alongside it, so that the information and the comfort were not two separate things but one inseparable thing. All of it had the quality of something that had been prepared by someone who knew me completely and had been thinking about this moment for a very long time. And in the center of all of it, present the way the sun is present in a room full of sunlight, not a thing among other things but the reason all the other things are visible, was God. I want to be careful here because I do not want to reduce what I experienced to a category that makes it smaller than it was. I did not see God the way you see a person. I did not hear God the way you hear a voice. What I experienced was more fundamental than seeing or hearing. It was more like, and I am reaching for the closest analogy available, it was more like being read. Being known with the complete and effortless knowing of someone for whom knowing you is not an activity they are performing but simply a state they are in. God knew me. Every version of me. Every moment I had been proud of and every moment I had wanted to take back. Every patient I had helped and every night I had doubted whether I was doing enough. Every morning I had woken up carrying something I had not told anyone about. Every question I had asked the universe that the universe had seemed to answer with silence. Not silence. I understood now. Not silence. A patience so vast and so complete that from inside my limited perspective it had looked like silence. The patience of something that exists outside of time and therefore is not waiting the way we wait, not experiencing the accumulation of moments that we experience as waiting, but simply present. Present in the way that love is present when it is not in a hurry because it knows that what it is waiting for will come. I had always been known. And I had always been loved. And the love had always been patient. I thought of 1 Corinthians chapter 13 verses 4 through 7. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Always. Not usually. Not under favorable conditions. Not when the person being loved makes it easy. Always. I had spent my adult life reading that passage at weddings and hearing it quoted in sermons and finding it beautiful in the way that ideals are beautiful aspirationally, as something to reach toward, as a description of love at its best that most love could only approximate. I understood now that Paul was not describing an ideal. He was describing a person. He was describing the love he had encountered, the specific and living love that had knocked him off his horse on the road to Damascus and blinded him and turned him from a man who persecuted followers of Jesus into a man who would spend the rest of his life trying to give away what he had been given. The love that is patient and kind and keeps no record of wrongs, not because those are nice qualities to aspire to, but because that is what this love actually is. In its nature. Without effort. Without the strain that human love experiences when it tries to be those things. That love was holding me. And it was going to hold Willie through everything, including the ending, including the part that I did not yet know how to imagine surviving. And then, gradually, with a tenderness that I recognized as the same tenderness that had been present from the first moment of that experience, I became aware of something changing. A quality of movement in the place around me. Not the joyful and purposeful movement of the beings who had been present since the beginning. Something more like the movement of a tide beginning to turn. Something that I could feel before I could understand it. Something that communicated, without words and without any possibility of arguing with it, that the time I had been given here was complete, and that it was time to go back. I turned to the beings around me, and what I saw in their faces, and I use the word faces understanding that it is imprecise, that what I am describing is something more like the quality of their presence oriented toward me. What I saw was not indifference, was not impatience, was not the expression of beings fulfilling an obligation and moving on to the next task. It was the expression of beings who understood exactly what they were asking me to give up, and who were asking me to give it up anyway. Because there were people in the world who needed what I was carrying. And only I could carry it back. Coming back into my body was the most violent thing I have ever experienced. I want to be honest about that because I think honesty matters more than a comfortable narrative, and I would rather tell you the truth of what returning felt like than soften it into something more palatable. The place I had been was, and I am going to use a word that I know will sound absolute and that I mean absolutely, perfect. Not perfect in the way we use that word to mean very good or without obvious flaw. Perfect in the way that means complete. Whole. The fullest possible expression of what a place can be. And returning from perfect to imperfect is not a gentle transition. It is a collision. The cold arrived first. the specific and brutal cold of a river in southern Chile in January, not the cold of a temperature you can adjust to, but the cold of a body that has been submerged for far longer than bodies are designed to be submerged, that has been without oxygen for far longer than brains are designed to be without oxygen, that has sustained the kind of damage that my medical training told me, with complete and clinical certainty, should not be reversible. And then the pain. Not localized. Not the specific pain of an injury that can be pointed to and addressed. The general and overwhelming pain of a system in crisis, every signal the body has for communicating distress firing simultaneously, the way every alarm in a building goes off at once when the power is restored after a long outage. My body was coming back online. And it was doing it loudly and without mercy and with complete indifference to the fact that the place I had just left made this one feel, in contrast, almost unbearably limited. I was on the riverbank. My friends were there. I was told later, because I have no continuous memory of the first hours after my resuscitation, that it had taken approximately 30 minutes for the rescue team to get me out of the water. 30 minutes in which my heart had not been beating and my lungs had not been working, and the cold water of the Fui River had been doing the kind of physiological damage that produces clinical notes that begin with the words "not expected to survive." I survived. My friends performed CPR on that riverbank for longer than CPR is generally understood to be effective. They did not stop. I have thought about that many times since, about the specific and stubborn love that keeps doing something past the point where the evidence suggests it is working. About the way that love sometimes persists in the face of all reasonable indication that persistence is futile. About how that persistence, in this case, turned out not to be futile at all. I thought later of James chapter 5 verse 16. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. The people on that riverbank were praying as they worked. Not the formal and composed prayer of a church service, the desperate and specific prayer of people who loved someone and were not ready to accept that she was gone. That prayer was heard. I know that with the same certainty I know everything else I am telling you. It was heard before it was spoken. By something that had already arranged for me to come back, and that was, in that moment, honoring the love that was refusing to give up on the riverbank. The evacuation from that remote river valley was complicated and long and involved a series of logistical challenges that I have no continuous memory of because I was not fully conscious for most of it. What I remember are fragments. The faces of my friends above me, expressions I recognized as the faces of people who were frightened and frightened again and trying very hard to project a calm they did not feel. The sound of a helicopter at some point. The smell of a hospital, that particular smell that I recognized from decades of working in them and that now, from this side of the experience, carried a different quality. Not the smell of mechanism and function. The smell of the place where the bridge between where I had been and where I was going was located. I was in that hospital for a very long time. The injuries were significant. My legs had sustained the kind of damage that comes from being held against a riverbed by force, damage that required surgeries and rehabilitation, and the particular kind of patience that belongs to a surgeon who is now on the other side of the operating table and who understands, perhaps better than most patients do, exactly what the recovery ahead is going to require. It required everything I had. And through all of it, through every surgery and every painful day of rehabilitation and every moment when the physical demands of recovery crowded out everything else, I carried what I had been given in that place. I carried it the way you carry something precious and fragile that you are not yet sure how to set down safely. The knowledge about Willie. The love that had surrounded the knowledge. The understanding that what had been told to me for a reason, and that the reason was connected to a future I could not yet see, but that was as real as the river that had almost taken me. I came home to Jackson, Wyoming. I came home to Bill and to my children and to the particular and irreplaceable texture of my own life. The kitchen that smelled like the things we cooked in it. The specific quality of mountain light that came through our windows in the mornings. The sound of my children moving through rooms. All of it was the same. All of it was also completely different. Because I was not the same woman who had left for Chile. I was a woman who had been somewhere and come back carrying something that reorganized everything. My relationship with Willie changed. Not in any way that I could have explained to someone watching from the outside. Not dramatically. Not in the way of someone who has been told their child is sick and who shadows that child with a grief that the child can feel even when it is not spoken. More quietly than that. More in the way that knowing something precious is temporary changes the quality of your attention to it. The way you look at a sunset differently when you understand that this particular combination of light and cloud and color will never occur in exactly this way again. I looked at Willie differently, with a specific and aching fullness, with the particular attention of someone who is trying to be completely present in every moment because she knows, in a way that she cannot share, that the moments are numbered. I watched him grow. Watched him move through the years between 9 and 18 with the particular joy and the particular sorrow of someone watching a film for the second time, knowing what is coming, unable to change it, finding in that knowledge not a diminishment of the experience but a deepening of it. He became remarkable. I want to tell you that because I think it matters. Willie did not become remarkable because of what I knew about him. He became remarkable because of who he was. Because of the specific and irreplaceable quality of his presence in the world, his humor, his generosity, his particular way of seeing things and responding to people that made every room he entered slightly more alive than it had been before he arrived. He was one of those people who the world needs more of, who leave every person they encounter slightly better than they found them. He was 18 years old when he died. He was hit by a car while riding his bicycle near our home in October of 2009. He died from his injuries. My son. The boy I had been shown in a place outside of time, held in love so complete it had made the knowing survivable. The boy who had been known before he was formed in the womb. The boy whose life and whose death had both been held, from before the beginning of either, in the hands of a God who does not miss anything and does not abandon anything and does not allow anything to fall outside the circle of his knowledge and his care. Willie died. And I survived it. I want to tell you carefully about how I survived it because I think it is the most important thing I can offer you in this entire account. Not the details of that October. Not the specific and shattering chronology of the days that followed. What I want to tell you is what made it survivable. What made it possible for a mother who had been told this was coming and had spent 9 years watching it approach to come out the other side of it still standing. Still able to say, without performance and without false comfort, that God is good. That the love is real. That the knowledge of where Willie went is not a platitude but a testimony. What made it survivable was what I had been given in that river. The direct experience of where he went. Not the belief. Not the theological position. Not the carefully constructed hope of someone who has decided to trust a framework that offers comfort in the face of loss. The actual memory. The lived and specific and completely real memory of a place I had been and beings I had encountered and a love I had stood inside that was so complete and so particular and so absolutely certain that no subsequent grief, however large, however legitimate, however completely appropriate to the magnitude of the loss, could reach the foundation of it. I knew where Willie was. Not new in the way that faith sometimes means, the brave and necessary reaching towards something you cannot see. New in the way that means I have been there. I have seen what is there. I had been held by the love that is there. And my son is in that love right now. Not was. Is. Present tense. Continuous. Unbroken by whatever has broken in me. I thought of 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verses 17 and 18. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary but what is unseen is eternal. I had read those words. I had found them, in my previous life as a careful and evidence-based skeptic, somewhat too convenient. Too much like the kind of comfort that asks you to minimize what you are actually feeling in exchange for a perspective that is supposed to make it better. I understood now that Paul was not asking anyone to minimize anything. He was not saying that the troubles are small. He was saying they are light and momentary in comparison to something so large and so permanent that the comparison itself is almost meaningless. Not light because they don't hurt. Light because of what they are being weighed against. Momentary not because they pass quickly in the experience of them, anyone who is grieved knows they do not, but because they exist inside time and what they are producing exists outside of time. Forever. Willie's life was momentary. What it produced was eternal. And the eternal glory of it, the specific and irreplaceable contribution that Willie's 18 years on this earth made to the fabric of existence, was known and held and celebrated in that place I had been. Was part of what I had seen in the joy of those beings who had carried me out of the river. Was woven into the love that had surrounded the message about him, the love that had communicated, before I had any way of knowing I would need it, that this was not the end of his story. It was the end of one chapter. The rest of the story was being written somewhere I could not yet read. But I had been there. And I knew the author. And the author does not write stories that end in darkness. Every story the author writes ends in light. Every single one. Without exception. I want to tell you something about grief. Not the theological position on grief. Not the 5 stages or the clinical framework or the carefully constructed comfort that well-meaning people offer when they do not know what else to say. Something more specific than any of that. Something I learned from the inside of the worst grief of my life, from the specific and bottomless place that a mother goes when her child dies, from the years of living that followed the October morning when everything I had been carrying for 9 years arrived all at once. Grief is not the opposite of love. It is love with nowhere to go. It is the specific and aching pressure of a love that is fully intact, that has not diminished by a single degree, that is as present and as complete and as particular as it was on the day it was formed, meeting the absence of the person it was formed for. Not the end of love. The collision of love with circumstances that have changed but that love itself refuses to accommodate. Willie was gone. And I loved him with the same completeness I had loved him with on every day of his 18 years. And that love had nowhere to go. And the pressure of it was, I will not minimize it, I will not soften it, I will tell you exactly what it was. The pressure of it was the most acute pain I have ever experienced. Including the cold of the Fui River. Including the collision of returning to my body on that riverbank. Including every surgery and every rehabilitation day and every moment of physical suffering that my body went through in the months after Chile. None of it compared to losing Willie. I want to say that clearly because I think it matters. Because I think there is sometimes an expectation that people who have had the kind of experience I had, who have been shown the reality of where our loved ones go, who carry the specific and direct knowledge that death is not what we fear it is, an expectation that such people should grieve less, should recover faster, should be able to reach for what they know and have the knowing somehow insulate them from the full weight of the loss. It does not work that way. What I carried did not make the grief smaller. It made the grief survivable. And those are not the same thing. The grief was full. The grief was legitimate. The grief was the appropriate response of a mother to the death of her child, and I honored it completely, and I did not rush it, and I did not use what I knew to shortcut it or bypass it or pretend it was something other than what it was. The grief was real and I lived inside it fully, and I did not ask it to be anything other than exactly what it was. And underneath the grief, not replacing it, not competing with it, not asking it to make room underneath it, holding it the way bedrock holds everything built on top of it, whether the building is aware of the bedrock or not. Underneath the grief was what I had been given in that river. The knowledge that Willie was somewhere. The specific indirect knowledge, not hope, not belief, not the carefully maintained conviction of someone who has decided to trust a framework that offers comfort, the actual memory of a place I had been and a love I had stood inside, and a quality of reality that made the word somewhere seem almost insultingly inadequate. Willie was not gone. Willie was somewhere so real and so full of life and so completely himself, more himself, if anything, than he had ever been able to be inside the particular constraints of a physical body in a physical world, that the word gone simply does not apply to him. It applies to his presence in my kitchen. It applies to the sound of his laugh from across the house. It applies to the specific and irreplaceable texture of his physical existence in my daily life. Those things are gone and the loss of them is real, and the grief of that loss is legitimate, and I will carry it in some form for the rest of my physical life. But Willie is not gone. Willie is in the place I was carried to. Willie is held in the love I stood inside. Willie is known, completely, specifically, with the full and effortless knowing of something that existed before he was born and will exist long after the last person who remembers his name has also crossed to where he is. Willie is known by the God who told me about him before it happened, who held the knowing of him with the same tenderness with which he held everything else, who never for a single moment lost track of him or stopped attending to him or allowed him to fall outside the circle of his awareness and his care. Willie is with God. And God is not a place that is far from here. I think of Acts chapter 17 verse 27 and 28. God did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. In him. Not near him. Not in his vicinity. In him. The way of fish is in water. The way light is in the sun. The way Willie is in the love that made him and held him and received him when the chapter of his physical life was complete. In him we live. In him we move. In him we have our being. And in him Willie lives still. I want to speak to you now. Not to everyone who might hear this. To you. The specific person in this specific moment carrying whatever you are carrying into this listening. Wherever you are. Whatever the shape of your loss. Whatever the particular and private weight of the thing that brought you to this video today. If you have lost a child, I need you to hear this from someone who has stood where you are standing. Not someone who is offering theological comfort from a safe distance. Someone who has been inside the specific and bottomless grief of losing a child and who is still standing and who can tell you, from the inside of that standing, what held her up. Your child is not gone. Your child is in the most alive and most real place that exists. Your child is more themselves than they ever managed to be here, released from every limitation and every unfinished thing and every constraint that a physical life imposes on a soul that was always larger than the body it inhabited. Your child is known there in the complete and specific way I described: every laugh, every particular way of occupying a room, every quality that made them irreplaceably themselves, present and radiant and whole. And your child is not waiting sadly. Your child is waiting with the specific joy of someone who can see something you cannot yet see. Who understands, from the perspective of that place, that the separation is real but the distance is not. That the love between you is not interrupted by death. That it is present, continuous, unbroken. You will see them again. Not as a hope, as an appointment. I know this because I was shown Willie before I lost him. I was shown where he would go. I was shown the love that would hold him. And when the October morning came and the thing I had been carrying for 9 years arrived, the showing was what held me. Not my strength. Not my faith as an act of will. The memory. The specific and unassailable memory of a real place where real love held everything, including the thing I was most afraid of losing. That love is holding your child right now. In the same way it held Willie. In the same way it held me in that river. In the same way it holds you in this moment, whether you can feel it or not. If you are afraid, let me tell you what it felt like to be carried by angels out of a river where I was dying. Let me tell you what it felt like to arrive in a place so real and so full of love that the word heaven is both the right word and entirely inadequate. Let me tell you what it felt like to be known, completely, specifically, with the full and effortless knowing of something that has been present in your life since before you were born, and to have the response to that complete knowing be love. Not judgment. Not accounting. Not the careful weighing of what you did against what you should have done. Love. Immediate. Complete. Specific. Directed at you in particular, not at people in general, not at humanity as a concept, at you, the specific and irreplaceable individual who is hearing these words right now, with a precision that communicates, without any possibility of misunderstanding, that you were expected, that you were known before you arrived, that everything about your life, including the parts that feel like failure, including the parts that feel like loss, including the parts that feel like evidence of a universe that does not particularly care about you, has been seen and held and is being worked with by something far more patient and far more skilled than anything you can access from inside your own limited perspective. You are not an accident. You are not forgotten. You are not alone in whatever river you are currently pinned in. There are beings who have been commanded concerning you, and they are not far from where you are. I think of Isaiah chapter 43 verses 1 through 3. But now thus says the Lord, He who created you, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you, for I am the Lord your God. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. I passed through the waters of the Fui River. I was not overwhelmed. Not because I was strong enough. Not because my faith was sufficient. Because something was with me that was stronger than the current and more persistent than the cold and more present than the absence of oxygen in my lungs. Something that had been commanded concerning me. Something that arrived in the water with a specific and joyful intentionality and lifted me out of the thing that should have taken me. That something is with you. In whatever water you are in right now. In whatever current is holding you against whatever riverbed. It is with you the way it was with me, not as a general principle of divine presence available to people who have earned it, but as a specific and directed presence that has been commanded concerning you in particular. That knows your name. That arrived in your life before you knew to look for it. That has been working with everything you have been through, every hard thing, every broken thing, every moment when the current seemed too strong and the cold too complete and the possibility of getting out too remote to reach for, working with all of it towards something you cannot yet see from where you are. Something that ends in light. It always ends in light. Willie's story ended in light. My story, the part of it that is still being written, the part of it that is still on this side of the river, is being held in that light even while I am still inside the parts of it that are dark. And your story is being held there too. Every part of it. Including the part you are in right now. Including the part you are most afraid of. Including the part that has not happened yet and that you are already dreading. It is known. It is held. It is being worked with by hands far more capable than any hands that have ever operated on a spine or pulled a body from a river or held a child through a fever or written a book about what it means to die and come back carrying something you were told to bring. You are going to be all right. Not all right in the thin and provisional way of someone who hopes for the best. All right in the way that means seen and held and purposed and moving towards something that is worth everything it costs to get there. I know this because I was carried by beings who were joyful about it, by a love that had been waiting for exactly that moment. By a God who knew my name and Willie's name and knew what was coming and held all of it, the beauty and the grief and the years between the river and the October morning and the years after it, held all of it in hands that do not tire and do not drop things and do not for a single moment lose track of what they are holding. He is holding you right now. In this moment, in whatever this moment contains, you are held. If this testimony has reached something in you today, if the story of a surgeon who was carried out of a river and shown things she was not supposed to be able to know has moved something in the place where you most needed something to move, there are more voices waiting for you here on this channel. More people who crossed to the other side and came back carrying something that was meant to be shared. Each one a different life. Each one a different loss. Each one arriving at the same place from a different direction and finding there the same thing. Love. Specific, patient, complete, holding everything, dropping nothing, missing no one. Subscribe and stay close, because every week we bring another voice home. And every voice is saying the same thing. You are known. You are loved. And you are held. Now and always and forever.